how did each state trend between 1960 and 2024 for president? That's what we're going to find out today. Last week we looked at just the shifts or the swings in each state. Today we're going to compare those shifts to the national shift, and that's going to get us the trends. So a lot of data to get through, and at the end, of course, we've got the map. There's a chapter down below in the description if you want to skip ahead. But first, let's real quick run through these two elections. The one you're going to be less familiar with is 1960. John F. Kennedy won it with 303 electoral votes. He carried 22 states with 49.72% of the popular vote. Richard Nixon took the loss for the Republicans. He got 219 electoral votes, but he did win more states at 26, and his popular vote share was 49.55. And you can see that map there is a little bit different. Take note of Mississippi and Alabama. Technically, the electors there were unpledged for a different candidate. But to make it easy, with the rest of the data, we're going to use Kennedy as the Democrat because he was the national nominee and obviously the winner. And real quick in 24, I'm not going to cover it because I cover it in every video, but we all know what happened in that one. It was 312 for Trump. He got 49.8. Harris got 226 and 48.3. Now let's get acquainted with the spreadsheet. On the left, we've got the states. Then it's the 60 vote for Kennedy, then for Nixon, then the 24 vote for Harris, then Trump. Then we've got the margin in 60 shaded accordingly. Then it's the same for 24. Then we've got the column from last week. These are the swings or the shifts in each state. That's just the difference between the two previous columns. And all the way on the right, we've got the trends. This will compare the individual swings in each state to the national swing, and that's going to get us the trends. These two columns also have shading. The darkest colors are 10 or more points. The lightest are under 5%. So as always, we first have to get our national baseline. Kennedy got 49.7. Nixon right under that at 49.6. In 24, Harris got 48.3. Trump was at 49.8. The margin for Kennedy in 60 was just 0.1%. The margin for Trump in 24 was 1.5. That means the entire country shifted 0.1% away from the Dems, another 1.5% toward Trump, and that comes out to a total net swing of 1.6% toward the Republicans. So any state that swung more than that in that direction is going to be a red trend. Anything less than that is a blue trend. Let's go through the first state. We've got Alabama. In 1960, Kennedy got 55.8. Nixon got 41.7. In 24, Harris went down to 34.1. Trump went up to 64.6. The difference between Kennedy and Nixon in 60 was 14.1. The margin for Trump in 24 was 30.5. That combines to a big swing of 44.6 toward the GOP. And that is way, way higher than that 1.6% that the rest of the country already moved in. The difference between them is a massive 43% to the right of the rest of the country. So that's how this works. Now let's speed through the rest of these states. Alaska also got redder, but by a milder 9.7. Arizona is the first blue trend down here. It went 5.5 toward Harris while the rest of the country was in the opposite direction. The difference there comes out to a blue trend of 7.1. Arkansas had a huge red trend of 36.1. California had a significant blue trend of 22.3. It was exactly the same in Colorado, 22.3. Connecticut, a milder blue trend of 8.7. Delaware at 14.7. Florida was redder by 8.5. Georgia, a lot redder at 25.7. Hawaii, almost the same in the other direction at 24.7. Idaho, even more than that, again in the opposite direction at 27.3. Illinois was bluer at 12.3. Indiana, redder at 6.9. Iowa is tied for the smallest trend out of all the states, just 1.9% toward the Dems. Kansas a little more than that at 6.8. Kentucky redder at a big 21.7. Louisiana redder at a huge 42.2. Then some big blue trends in Maine at 22.6, Maryland 22.9, and Massachusetts, Kennedy's home state, a milder 6.2. Michigan is tied with Iowa for the smallest trend out of all the states, but it's in the opposite direction. It got redder by 1.9. Minnesota is bluer at 4.4. Mississippi way redder at 32.9. Missouri 17.4 and Montana 15.8. Nebraska is bluer at 5.2. Nevada redder at 3.9. Then more blue trends in New Hampshire 11.3, New Jersey 6.7, New Mexico 6.8, and New York 8.9. But then some red trends in North Carolina at 5.8, North Dakota a big 24, Ohio a milder 2.8, and Oklahoma 14.7. Oregon got noticeably bluer at 21.2. Pennsylvania a small red trend of 2.5. Then more GOP-friendly trends in Rhode Island 11.9, South Carolina 18.6, 26, South Dakota 11.2, Tennessee 21, Texas 14.1, and Utah an even 10. Then we've got Vermont. This state had the biggest trend out of all the states. Pretty red back then, but now it's super blue and it trended that way by 50.4. Virginia way less than that at 12.7, and Washington is back up there at 22.2. West Virginia had the biggest trend toward the Republicans at 45.7. Wisconsin just a little bit toward the Dems at 4.4, and Wyoming is back toward the Republicans at 34.2. So that's it. Those are all of the states and all of the trends. If you want to help visualize this data, let's take it all. Let's put it on a map. Here's what we've got. It's similar shading. 3 levels of it. The darkest colors are 10 or more. The lightest colors are under 5%. And if you compare this to last week's video of just the shifts or the swings, no states flipped in this. I guess that's because the entire country only moved 1.6, and that was easy enough for most states to keep up with. At the top, using the current electoral votes, we've also got the same as last week. 257 for the Dems, 278 for the Republicans. So it's a slight GOP advantage here. Dems clearly do their best on the West Coast, some of the Southwest, parts of the Midwest, and the Northeast, including some of the Mid-Atlantic states. Republicans really turn it on in the South, the Southeast, and the Upper Great Plains, and also parts of the Midwest. But many of these states have milder shades of red or blue. You could also factor in the home states of Kennedy and Nixon, as well as their running mates. And you could point out the 2 states with the smallest trends, Iowa and Michigan, both 1.9 and both in opposite directions. So a bunch of states had dramatic movement. Others decided they didn't need to move a ton, spanning 60 plus years. The one state that might stand out the most is in the Northeast. That's Rhode Island. It's known as a pretty blue state, but on this, it moved double digits toward the right. But then you've got a couple of redder states that moved moderately toward the Dems. That's Nebraska and Kansas, maybe even Iowa. Plus Arizona got bluer and Georgia got way, way redder. But again, it was a totally different era in 1960, especially in many southern states. Tons of changes over 6 decades. And the reasons behind those changes with certain states and certain demographics is a totally different discussion. The focus here is just on where the movement was and by how much. So these are the presidential trends between 1960 and 2024. So let me know in the comments. What do you think about any of the data in any of these states? Which 2 or 3 states surprised you the most, moving to the left or to the right? How about the states that really didn't budge at all? And how about how close the 1960 election was compared to 24? Let me know what you think down below. On your way out, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Join if you'd like to support the channel. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.